Sam Kahn joining us now with theathletic.com. Craig, you want to give whatever note on MIcah Hudson?
Yeah, I'm just trying to sort through what some of the news is here. But according to, I think, Billy Liucci, because, you got to sort through a lot on Twitter that you don't quite know what it really is or not. But I believe, according to Billy Liucci, and now you see it from Pete Nakos and some others, Texas A&M transfer wide receiver MIcah Hudson, formerly of Texas Tech, has stepped away from day-to-day football activities. I saw one report, because this is all just coming down now, was to possibly deal with some, just off-field mental health type issues or whatnot. I don't want to say too much more because I don't really know the details and I don't want to speculate too much. But the report is out there that MIcah Hudson is not with A&M right now or is taking a break. So that is obviously very interesting.
Sam, you cover A&M quite a bit. You cover a lot of college football, not just around A&M in the state, but a lot of places. Your thoughts just about the story that we just saw right before we came back to be a part of your segment?
Yeah, that's news to me. I hadn't heard that until y'all read it. So interesting to figure out. Will it be interesting to see what happens there? Obviously, we haven't seen a lot of MIcah on the field. Didn't spend a lot of time on the field last year at Texas Tech. Immensely talented guy. Hopefully he can take care of whatever he's got going on. But, hopefully we'll find out some more about that here soon.
All right. So you wrote something about Quinn Ewers. Obviously, the national championship semifinal game did not go the way anyone wanted it. Through a UT fan or even Ewers down at the doorstep at the one. Didn't work out. The fumble return for the touchdown that's basically sealed the game. Your thoughts about how he played this out, and in the end, in your opinion, did he make the only decision and the right decision to turn pro?
Yeah, I think this was the only decision for him to make, and I think it is the right one. I understand the rumors about the big money that's out there waiting for him in the transfer portal to go to another team, but I think if his goal is to be an NFL quarterback, which clearly it's his stated goal, then I don't think there's any sense in pushing this any further, in delaying his pro career, pro future anymore. He's started 36 games at Texas. He's worked with one of the best play callers in the game, Steve Sarkisian. He's had an immense amount of talent around him. I think if he were to stay and transfer, you would introduce a lot of other variables. What kind of coach are you going to end up with? What kind of supporting cast you're going to have around you? You're going to have to learn a new offense, a new system. Certainly, wherever you're going is probably not running what Steve Sarkisian's running. So, and then he's got his injury history, which you have to take into account. He's been injured each of the last 3 years and missed games. I understand he's not considered a first-round pick right now, and when you talk to scouts, some of them have some optimism about him, and some of them think maybe he's a backup long-term in this league and not a starter. But I think with as thin as the quarterback class is, with no real slam dunk guys after Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, I think he has the potential to woo some scouts during the pre-draft process because of his physical tools. I think he'll interview really well. And you know how it is. In the NFL, guys fall in love with quarterbacks. They overdraft at the position. I could absolutely see him going up just because of everything he's done at the college level, the physical tools that he has, particularly his arm strength, his ball placement. And maybe he ends up getting drafted higher than people think. But I just think it was time to move on. I think he's proven what he is at the college level. I think he's reached the ceiling at the college level. I think he is what he is at this point. I don't think he stood to gain very much by coming back.
What do you think about Texas with this mass exodus to the NFL? They've lost some depth, some guys that weren't playing to the portal. So there's going to be some adding in there. But is this a team that's ready to compete with all these new young guys? Or can we expect to see a team that might be just pretty good and not great?
think this potential to be pretty good next year. And for these reasons, yes, they do lose a lot. They lose 4 or 5 starters in the offensive line, but you bring back DJ Campbell, Trevor Gooseby, who filled in for Kelvin Banks, I thought was pretty good. Cole Hudson, who rotated with DJ Campbell at right guard. He's got a lot of experience, and he's played a lot of football for them. He started games before in the past for them. So that's a very experienced guy. The biggest hole to fill is going to be at center, where you had Jake Majors. You got a multi-year starter. That's going to be a really hard one to fill. But they're bringing back most of their running backs. You still have some talented receivers with DeAndre Moore, and you have Ryan Wingo, the freshman, who I thought played really well. You get CJ Baxter back, and then you look at defense. Getting Trey Moore back today, he wasn't one of the underclassmen to go in the draft. So getting Trey Moore back at edge rusher, you got Colin Simmons back, you get Anthony Hill back, you get Ethan Burke, Michael Taft, the safety All-American, is coming back. I think they have enough pieces to still be really good. Now, will they be young? Yes, they will be pretty young, especially from a depth standpoint. There's not going to be a lot of veteran depth on this roster. It's going to be a lot of freshmen and sophomores in rotational roles. But from a first 22 on both sides of the ball, I still think this is a really good team, and certainly a team that I would project to get into the playoff as the roster stands today.
Sam, this Arch Manning coverage is going to be unlike, I think, anything we've ever seen before, right? I mean, there's part of me that's very excited to see it because now we know he's actually playing on a weekly basis. But do you think there's any close comparison? I mean, can you think of any player that's really drawn as much interest in such a short amount of time from recruit to now as what we're about to, see unfold fully in Austin, Texas?
Yeah, not quite the attention level. This is going to be unprecedented because it's not only that he was considered a great high school recruit. He was number 1 in the country. I think 247 Sports had him number 1. Maybe ESPN did too, or some other services did too. But he's got the famous last name. He's got the pedigree. He's got 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks as uncles. He's got a really great NFL quarterback who was a grandfather. He's got the bloodlines. He's got the tools. He seems to already be embracing the role that he is in now and then the role that he's going to be. He seems to be pretty coachable. He's got all the physical tools. Like here's what I want to get by to everybody who thinks, well, this is just a kid that we're just writing about him because his last name is Manning. Go watch the kid play because the kid is really talented. Anytime I've seen him in person, especially after his freshman year, I think his freshman year, you could tell he was swimming a little bit. But once he figured it out and once he understood what he was doing in that offense, you could tell the athleticism is there. The arm strength is there. He can definitely drive the ball. He's definitely confident in where he can place the ball. And I'm really excited to see him in this offense because that very first start that he had against ULM, those who may have watched it remember they threw the ball deep a lot in that game, a lot more than they usually do. And Steve Sarkisian said afterwards, he goes, the reason is when we drew up the script, we look at what we want to call, and everything that we looked at that we wanted to call, it's like, well, we like this, because they were things that fit what Arch could do well. And one of the biggest struggles that I think Quinn Ewers had was placing the ball on downfield passes. He was not consistently accurate downfield. I think that is something that's going to change with Arch Manning. And I think with the play action passing game and how many shot plays Sarks likes to take, I think you're going to see them be a lot more dangerous and effective in the downfield passing game with Arch Manning.
Yeah, he threw a beautiful fade, which is really a one, just boom. That's a timing device, literally at 15 or 30 yards down the field. But the other stuff, deep over the middle, there was an occasional catch, whatever. And that did seem to kind of like disappear from what I thought I saw him do his first couple of years at Texas. The championship game is set. Notre Dame, Ohio State. Both teams are red hot. Notre Dame lost that game earlier to Northern Illinois. Didn't blink, kept moving. Ohio State lost the game to Michigan. All hell's breaking loose. And here they are with this chance. Reminded me of the 14 team that was going to be left out, and then they got hot. Your thoughts about who we have and where we are?
I'm glad that we're at this point because we've gotten 2 teams that have earned it. It's not been a beauty contest per se. There's some of that when you do the selection at the front end, but once the bracket is set, you got to win your way there. And Notre Dame has won their way there, even though they had some injuries. They've dealt with some adversity. Ohio State, when you came into this tournament after all the noise that was going on after the Michigan loss, I don't think a lot of people picked Ohio State or thought Ohio State would be playing here. I think they would have picked Oregon or Texas to get here before Ohio State. And that's a testament to Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, Jim Knowles, and that whole staff for getting back up off the mat and getting this team there. Because when you watch them from a talent standpoint, it's clear to me, of all the teams that I've seen this year, that team has the best roster in the country. They have talent up and down the offensive positions, up and down the defense. They have speed, they have strength, they have power, they have size, they have the whole nine. And I'm going to be fascinated to watch this game. I think it's going to be not terribly dissimilar to the Texas game in that I think it's going to be a lot of defense and a little bit of a slugfest. But I'm just glad that we get – and people can say, oh, we got two big brands. That's okay because they won their way there. It wasn't – we didn't just preordain that these teams would get there. And so these teams have earned their way there, and now you get to get a real live slugfest to see them duke it out for the title. I think Ohio State's a better team, and I think Notre Dame being beat up a little bit is going to hurt them in this one, but it's going to be fun to see it play out. That's why they play the game.
What do you think this means? Like, for Will Howard, who – when he was at Kansas State, he had a bit of a roller coaster. They threw him in there when he was 17 years old, and his whole fan base thought he sucked. And then, they go and get transfer quarterbacks to play in front of him, and then eventually he just comes in and makes them better and helps them win the Big 12. Then he gets pushed aside for the hot young quarterback in Avery Johnson. And now here he is standing on the precipice of winning a national title at Ohio State. This is one of the more bizarre college quarterback stories ever written, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt. Because, again, I think there was a lot of uncertainty even when Ohio State took him. Is this guy good enough to win you a national championship? Because that was the goal. You spend all this money in the portal. You spend all this money to retain a roster and make a run and go all in on winning a national title this year. And one of the biggest questions was a quarterback. Was this the guy to get you there? Never mind that he won a Big 12 championship at Kansas State. He was up and down at times, but you surround him with the talent that they've got there and what a difference it makes. I think his veteran presence has been huge, especially when I think back to the Cotton Bowl. I think about that 8-minute drive that Ohio State went to put that game away. That Will Howard really was key there, especially on the fourth down run to kind of keep the chains moving and keep them on the field and get what eventually turned out to be the go-ahead score. So he's been a guy who's just really gotten it done. Anytime you've put him in there, whether it was at K-State or Ohio State, he's not the flashy. He's not going to jump off the page. He's not a first-round pick. He was a 3-star recruit. He's not going to be anybody that wows you, but he gets it done. He finds a way, whether it's with his legs or with his arm, he finds a way to get it done. And like I said, testament to Chip Kelly. I think he put him in some really good spots in that Texas game, and it helps to have two uber talented receivers and two really good running backs behind you.
Sam, what is your intrigue or curiosity level when it comes to Dallas Cowboys head coach Deion Sanders and all the rumors that are out there right now? Obviously, we'd love to see him stay at Colorado because it makes them a lot more interesting. I know they'd love that as well, but there's obviously some smoke here. I mean, nobody's really backing down or saying no chance at all. So just what have you thought of what you've heard and kind of what you've seen in terms of what you expect to come next?
Yeah, my intrigue level is it's entertaining, and the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones will be nothing if not entertaining. And so I don't watch them a ton, but I do appreciate that they always give everybody something to write about. I understand why Jerry would look this way because you do have to give Deion a lot of credit. Look at what he did at Jackson State. Look at what he's done at Colorado. And whether you like his personality and his bravado or not, the bottom line is the guy has won, and the guy has done a good job in player acquisition and being able to turn programs around, at least in the small sample size that we have. Does that translate to the NFL? I don't know. It's hard to say, but considering their relationship, the fact that he was such a big free agent signee for them back in 95 and won a Super Bowl with them, certainly there's a relationship there between Deion and Jerry, and I think it only makes sense. If you have a relationship, why not talk to him? If you're Deion, you'd be crazy not to listen because there are very few jobs out there that you drop everything and go take if you're a college coach, and NFL head coach for the Dallas Cowboys is absolutely one of them. So I think it's intriguing. I think it's more than just a courtesy call. I think it's actually something they legitimately will look at. If I had to put my money on it, I still think Dallas will end up with Kellen Moore at the end of the day. But that's me with no NFL expertise or no inside information. That's just a guess based on how these things go. But if you're Deion, it's a no-lose situation. You can either stay at Colorado where everybody loves you and you turn the program around, or you can go take an NFL job with Cowboys with an owner that is very fond of you, and you'll have some job security and a nice payday to go with it.
I know that today there's been some reporting about the eligibility in college athletics. And one of them is that when you enter college, you get 5 years and you get to play 5 years. I love this idea. I think it almost makes so much sense. It's dumb that it wasn't, before. The eligibility, of course, has some concerns about whether it will be waivers, red shirts, and all that. But it appears as if that's what you get: 5 years to play 5 years. And you get to play all of them if you want to. What are your thoughts about that? This seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think once we went to the 4-game redshirt and once the utilization of that became not what it was intended, it was originally intended for, hey, let your freshmen or your young players play, or let players that got injured early in the season not have to burn a year. When we got away from that and it became manipulated so that a team could hold back players like Dana Holgorsen in Houston did a few years ago, or if you're a player who wants to enter the transfer portal and you play 4 games and then hold back the rest of the year so you can enter the portal, I think that really created chaos in the middle of the season, and we didn't really see that coming until it actually happened. I think going 5 for 5 makes sense. Go 5 for 5 and then give people an injury exception that if you lose a year to injury, you get one. But maybe you put a limit on that to a certain extent because you don't want guys out here playing at 25, 26 years old in college football. But I think it's a natural step. Every coach that I talk to, everybody in the industry that I talk to seems to like this idea. And I think it depends on, of course, how fast a legislative process moves with this. But I get the sense that within the next calendar year, it wouldn't surprise me if this thing gets done, because I think it'll help for roster management. We've had so many variables thrown in, from the red shirts to the COVID year, which we're starting to pretty much phase out of most of those guys now, to the JUCO waiver now that's involved. So all this has created a little bit of a challenge for roster managers. It's also created a challenge for high school recruits who are having fewer spots to go to some of these schools because guys are able to stay longer and extend their eligibility. Going 5 for 5 makes the roster management a lot easier, a lot cleaner, a lot more simple for everybody, and it will be helpful to have that stability as we move forward into a rev share era.
Can they call it the move on with your life rule?
5 plus 1 injury exception, and then you have to go get a job. Call it the enter the job portal rule. Post your LinkedIn.
Yeah. No,
I mean, they do. I mean, part of it, Sam, I think that you have a couple scenarios of 6-year guys that have helped you out. But I think if you look at the gigantic amount of numbers, if a guy is in his 6th, 7th, or God forbid 9th year like Cam McCormick was, if he has not been told by professional football leagues, of which there are 3 that they could go to, we would like you to come here, then maybe they're not going to help you win all that much.
Yeah, no doubt. And part of it too is, though, you can probably make more money as a 7th or 8th year tight end at a Power 4 school than you could in the UFL or one of these other pro leagues that is not the NFL. So that's part of it too. But I think 5 plus an injury year, if you end up having one, is the right number. We were able to have that before in some extreme cases. I remember once upon a time, Case Keenum at Houston ended up playing 6 years because he had a redshirt year, an injury year. I think he had 2 injury years, actually. So I think that's enough. I think once we get past 6, I think we're getting a little much. But 5 for 5 as a normal thing. And then that way you're not having to play. Also, it allows coaches not to have to play the redshirt game. If you want to play a freshman a few games, and if you want to play him a 5th, then that's totally fine. Because the other thing is we have this right now, this bowl game situation, this postseason situation, where you get the 4, but then you get the postseason games are exempt from that. So you really and honestly can play up to 8 games, I think, without burning a redshirt year if you're playing all the way into the national championship. But I think it just makes it easier for roster management. And like you said, not having guys 25, 26 years old play college football, and also trickling back down to the high school guys, letting some of these fringe high school guys who would have had opportunities in the past that are not getting them because of some of these guys staying longer, allowing them to have a few more opportunities to get recruited and get on the college football rosters.
Yeah, Sam, there was so much initially leading up to the 12 teams being selected for the playoff. And then, of course, after the first night, oh, my God, Indiana didn't compete. Now that we're on the cusp of the championship, how do you feel like it's gone? And if you did, you yourself would recommend one change, if at all, which change would that be?
I wouldn't change anything for next year. And I know that may be a little controversial just because of the seeding and how the conference championship thing worked out. But let's go through at least 2 years before we start changing things. It's such a small sample size. How I felt is it was great. I had a lot of fun with this. And I came back from the Cotton Bowl last week. I did the first round. I did the quarterfinals of the Peach Bowl, and I did the semis of the Cotton Bowl. And that was more fun than I've had in a long, long time covering college football because it was so new. You got to see so many different storylines, so many different fan bases from across the country involved. It no longer was concentrated to just SEC country or Big Ten country. You had teams from Boise, you had Indiana, you had SMU, you had Arizona State. You had so many parts of the country involved and invested in this. And we really got to see and learn some great stories. We all knew Ashton Genty, of course, before this. But a lot of people, even through the Big 12 championship game, your casual fans across the country maybe didn't know who Cam Scadaboo was. Buddy, they learned it against Texas in the quarterfinals, and they learned who Sam Levitt was. I think that changes an outlook for next year. When you look at Arizona State next year, people are going to remember Sam Levitt and the performance that he had against Texas. Those types of things are special. Seeing Penn State get to a semifinal. We've asked so many questions about James Franklin, but we got to see them actually make a deep run, regardless of how you feel about their path. They got themselves there. They won their way there. Marcus Freeman, who I remember he lost some games early in his tenure at Notre Dame, and we were talking about where that guy was going to be on the hot seat. Yep. Now he's playing for a national championship. There's so many layers to this, and the playoff so far has done what I think most of us who were in favor of it thought it was going to do, which was make the thing more interesting and open it up for other teams. And now, oh, by the way, we have 2 straight championships without an SEC team involved, and I think that says a lot about where we are. So I've been thrilled with how it's turned out. I want to see it go. Let's run it back again without any more changes. Let's see how it goes next year. But I'm so glad we did it because I think it's been a lot of fun. It's made the season long, but I think it's been a lot of fun for everybody involved, and I think we're going to have a great championship game on Monday night.
Sam, I know you got to go. I'm just going to bring it back full circle where we started since we brought up MIcah Hudson.
Yep.
Since Billy Liucci's confirmed that, I guess some of the details of some of the reporting, but basic gist of it is they're holding a spot open for MIcah, who's going to go deal with some personal issues, and if he comes back, open arms, and if he doesn't, that's another story. But, yeah, interesting twist, and I saw somebody actually recommend if somebody could put together a package to get Jonte Cook, Ajayi Hall, and MIcah Hudson all on like the East Mississippi Community College team or something. Like what a squad that would be.
Absolutely. No kidding. I will tell you this. It's a good thing for A&M that they loaded up at receiver the way they did because they got a lot more than just MIcah. They got Casey Concepcion from NC State. They ended up doing really well in the recruiting 2025 recruiting class on that front as well. So I think they'll be fine at receiver. They did lose Noah Thomas. He entered the portal. So that is a tough loss, but they knew they needed to improve that room a lot. And so it wasn't like they were banking solely on Hudson. Like I said, hopefully everything's okay. Hopefully he takes care of his business because he's a really talented guy. Anybody who saw him in high school knows how superbly talented he was, why he was a 5-star. So hopefully he can get his stuff handled and get back because I'm anxious to see him play college football because I think he's a really talented guy.
Yep. Lake Belton star, 5-star, Texas Tech. Didn't work out there, and now we'll see what happens going on. Hope he's going to be okay. Thank you, Sam. Great stuff. Appreciate your time. Sam Conn with us from theathletic.com.